देखती आंखों और सुनते कनों को मेरा सलाम. Welcome to my channel, Naksha.
Into a really compelling analysis of American foreign policy that asks one heck of a question. Is what we're all watching on the world stage right now new, or is it just history repeating itself?
It's a huge question, right? Is the United States really forging a brand new path in how it deals with the world? Or are we just seeing old patterns, old ideas, playing out with new technology and new leaders?
Well, the source material we're breaking down today doesn't mince words. It makes the claim that, yeah, it's absolutely history repeating itself. And the evidence, according to this analysis, stretches from the warm waters of Venezuela all the way to the icy plains of the Arctic.
So first up, a familiar foreign policy. To really get a grip on where we are now, the source argues we have to go back. We have to look at the historical building blocks, specifically two huge pillars of U.S. foreign policy. The first pillar is a name you've probably heard before in history class, Manifest Destiny. Now, this wasn't just some political slogan. It was a powerful, deeply held belief in the 19th century that the United States had a God-given right, a destiny, to expand and control the entire North American continent. It was an idea that literally shaped a nation. And believe me, this was not just an abstract concept. It was policy in action. Just look at this timeline. In 1803, boom, the Louisiana Purchase doubles the size of the country overnight. Fast forward a few decades to 1848, and the Mexican-American War adds a massive chunk of the West. And by 1898, the Spanish-American War was projecting American power clear across the Pacific. Every step was a direct result of that core belief.
And here's where the source draws a direct and pretty provocative line from the past to the present. The 19th century idea of a divine right to expand finds a modern echo, the analysis argues, in political rhetoric that kind of, nudges Canadians to join the USA as the 51st state. It's a striking comparison.
Okay, next section, policing the hemisphere. So, if Manifest Destiny was the ideological fuel for the fire, then the Monroe Doctrine was the policy engine built to enforce American influence, especially in its own neighborhood.
This takes us to the second pillar, the Monroe Doctrine, all the way back in 1823. Now, on paper, its goal was pretty simple. It was a message to the old European powers to keep their hands off the Western Hemisphere. You can almost picture it as a giant no trespassing sign hung over North and South America.
But, over the decades, that no trespassing sign started to look more and more like a permission slip for the U.S. to intervene itself. The source points to the Roosevelt Corollary in 1904, which basically spelled that right out. It was used to justify the Banana Wars, military occupations throughout Latin America, and it was brought up during massive Cold War flashpoints like the Cuban Missile Crisis and the invasions of Grenada and Panama. The doctrine went from "you stay out" to "we can step in."
And this brings us right up to the present day. The source we're looking at actually coins a new term for what it sees as the modern version, calling it the Monroe Doctrine. It's a pretty clever play on words, blending Donald and Monroe, and it's framed as this more personalized, more aggressive 21st century update.
To really show how this might work, the source lays out this detailed hypothetical case study it calls Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela. The analysis unpacks four clear strategic goals. 1. Push back against Chinese influence. 2. Get control of Venezuela's huge oil and mineral reserves. 3. Send a message to other countries in the region not to partner up with U.S. rivals. And 4. Prop up friendly populist governments. It's basically a modern playbook for this new doctrine.
All right, shifting gears. From South America, the analysis takes us way, way north to a new arena, the Arctic. Here, the source presents the American interest in Greenland as maybe the ultimate example of this whole then and now dynamic in action.
Man, this slide really puts things into perspective. If you thought the idea of the U.S. buying Greenland was something new, think again. The source shows that this interest goes back more than a century. You can see it right there on the timeline, from initial suggestions in the 1860s to offers to trade territory for it in the 1910s, all the way to President Truman offering $100 million in gold for the island back in 1946. Today's headlines are just the latest chapter in a very long book.
So why the obsession with Greenland? The source boils it down to three really critical factors. First, geopolitics. It controls something called the GI-UK gap, a super important naval choke point. Second, natural resources. We're talking vast, untapped deposits of rare earth minerals essential for modern tech. And third, future trade. As the ice melts, new shipping routes could open up, potentially rivaling the Panama and Suez canals.
It's a trifecta of strategic importance.
Okay, so we've looked at the past, we've looked at the present. What does it all mean? Well, according to this source, these policies are a sign of a massive, fundamental shift in how the world works.
And here we get to the absolute heart of the argument. The source claims that what we're witnessing is the final stage, the end, of what's known as the rules-based liberal world order. That whole system of international laws and alliances built after World War II, the claim is that it's being taken apart piece by piece.
And what are the risks of that happening? The source is very clear about the potential consequences. It could undermine the basic international rule against using force. It could create dangerous precedents that other major powers like Russia and China could follow. It could strain or even break key alliances like NATO. And it could really threaten the stability of smaller countries caught in the middle of these great power games. And to put it in the author Aftab Walla's own words, the breakdown of the rules-based world order favors militarily strong countries. It's a pretty stark warning, suggesting we're moving into a world where might makes right is becoming the law of the land. Which leaves us with the final and frankly pretty chilling question that the source poses, borrowing a line from the philosopher Thomas Hobbes, are we heading towards a global war of all against all? A really sobering thought to end on.